लाडली लाल की। ध्यान मूलम गुरोर्मूर्ति पूजा मूलं गुरोर्पदम् मंत्रमूलं गुरोर्वाक्यम् भक्तिमूलं गुरोर्कृपा। पादाश्रितानाञ्च समस्तचौरम् श्रीराधिकाया हृदयस्य चौरम् नीलाम्बुजश्यामलकान्तिचौरम् चौराग्रगण्यम् पुरुषं नमामि। यशोदया समाकापि देवता नास्ति भूतले। उलूखले यया बद्धो मुक्तिदो मुक्तिमिच्छति। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वम् यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्मंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Dear devotees, please join me in a few minutes of Nam Sankirtan, and after that I'll answer some of the questions that have been sent in to our YouTube channel. Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe
Radhe
Govinda.
Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Radhe 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 Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe 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 Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Radhe 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 Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda,
Oh, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Radhe, Radhe, Govinda.
Govinda, 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 Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Radhe, Radhe, Govinda.
Govinda, 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 Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bolo Shama Shyam ki. Radhe Radhe, everyone. Today I'll be covering as many questions as I can from the questions that are sent in to YouTube. And the first one, which was advertised in the email, is how can one integrate spirituality into their everyday life? When we say spirituality here at Radha Madhav Dham, what we mean is the path to God. How do I integrate following the path to God into my daily life? And the path to God is the path of devotion, bhakti. Therefore, we can say the question is, how do I integrate practicing devotion into my daily life? There are two aspects to the answer. One is about a daily practice. Here we teach that every day you have to do some intensive practice of remembering God. The mind is the main thing that we have to think about. Where is our mind? The goal on the path of devotion is follow some kind of practice that helps you attach your mind to God. That practice has to be something that creates that connection with God from your heart, from your mind, and allows you to deepen that connection. We call this practice a Roop Dhyan. Roop Dhyan means visualizing the form of God that you're worshiping. It's a very straightforward practice. Who are you worshiping? Okay, let's say I'm worshiping Krishna. Then visualize Krishna. You can call it meditation. It is a meditation because you're deeply thinking about someone, and then when you add emotion into it, that Krishna is mine. He belongs to me and I am his. He's my son, he's my master, he's my father, he's my beloved. Any of these sentiments create an emotional attachment with Shri Krishna. Practicing this is the daily practice that we recommend here. This is how, through deeply contemplating upon our loving connection with Krishna while visualizing his form, this creates more and more attachment with him. This attachment is felt as an affinity for Krishna. The more we get attached to him, the more we feel that he's mine. The more we feel that mamata. So this is the main daily practice. Think of it as a regimen, think of it as some kind of regular prescribed practice that one has to follow. We have to do this every day. How do you integrate it into your life? It's a question of prioritizing. If the doctor tells you you're 50 pounds overweight, your blood pressure is high, you have to start doing some exercise, or something bad might happen, and he prescribes you an exercise plan. Doesn't matter how busy you are. You don't say, doctor, how am I going to integrate this exercise into my daily life? You do it. You find a way. It's not a big... तमाम सोचने की बात नहीं है, तमाम बुद्धि लगाने की बात नहीं है, कैसे करूं, करते हैं. You do it because your life depends upon it. So just the fact that we're asking this question as if it's some kind of complicated thing means that we're just not prioritizing integrating this into our life. If it meant something to us, if it was important to us, we would just do it. We wouldn't ask how to do it. We said, oh, I have to do Rup Dhyan for 30 minutes every day. Okay, let me look at my schedule. Where's the most logical place to fit it in? And then you do it. We fit in the things that we give priority to. So this is the first aspect to this answer. How do I integrate the practice of devotion into my life? You prioritize it. Just like you prioritize exercising because you know if I don't do it, what's going to happen. So you can prioritize the practice of devotion because you know the benefit you're going to get. It purifies your mind. It reduces tension, anger, hatred, and it increases a connection of loving belonging with God and a sense of well-being. We get all these benefits, which are the things we're looking for in the world anyway, but we're just looking for them in the wrong place. Everybody's running full speed. Where are you going? Oh, I'm running after happiness. Do you know where happiness is? No, I don't have time to think about such deep philosophical things. I'm too busy running after happiness. But happiness is over there. You're running in that direction. I don't have time to listen to these philosophical talks right now. This is our situation. Happiness is in God, but we don't have time for God. Why? Because we're too busy chasing happiness in the world, which, in fact, the world gives us more tension and disappointment and not a feeling of well-being and security and happiness, which is what we get when we attach our mind to God. Of course, we have to live in this world, but we need to change our perspective on living in the world. This brings us to the second aspect of the answer. The first aspect is just find a way to fit in this daily practice of devotion we call Rup Dhyan. Find a way to fit it in. The second aspect is that integration starts happening as a type of consciousness once you begin practicing. Once you fit this into your schedule and you begin practicing devotion every day, as prescribed by a divine saint, then you start getting some benefit, which is that your mind gets more and more attached to Shri Krishna. Right now, we're in the type of consciousness we would call body consciousness. Because who do we think of ourselves as being? We actually identify more as our body, not so much as our soul. So we're in body consciousness, or you can say we're in material consciousness. This consciousness starts changing. Instead of being in money consciousness where, there are some people who live more in money consciousness. How am I going to earn more? How can I save more? How can I become a millionaire? And they're thinking about this all the time, so that's the consciousness they're in. Someone might be thinking, how can I get people to like me? I want others to think I'm good, and thinking about that all the time. So we're in material consciousness in different ways. These are different flavors of material consciousness. When someone begins to understand, I am not this body, I am the soul, and I'm related to God, then they start to enter into God consciousness. And when they start to practice devotion every day and create a connection with Krishna, then they start to enter into bhakti consciousness or divine love consciousness, where we feel a true emotional connection with Shri Krishna, and that connection starts to be felt throughout the day. That doesn't happen instantly or on the first day. After practicing devotion for some time, our mind becomes so attached to Shri Krishna that instead of always thinking about worldly things and feeling connected to worldly people, that affinity in our mind for Shri Krishna starts taking on more prominence, and he's in our mind all the time. Then that spirituality naturally integrates into our every moment in our life. This is why this question has two aspects. One is the practice aspect, that we have to find time to practice or make time to practice. And the other is the consciousness aspect, that we start entering into bhakti consciousness, where our love for Krishna becomes a part of who we are. It becomes a part of our identity. Just like the fact that you're a mother, or you're a father, or you're somebody's friend, or you're somebody's husband or wife, that relationship is a part of your consciousness. You feel that connection throughout the day. Our connection with Shri Krishna becomes so deep that we feel that throughout the day. Then our spirituality is naturally integrated into our life. But to reach that stage, we have to practice. We have to make the time. Everybody has the same amount of time in a day. Everybody only has 24 hours. It's a question of what we prioritize. Before I go on to answer some more questions, does anybody have any follow-up questions on this topic? There will be other opportunities to ask questions today as well, but if you had anything come to mind right now, you're welcome to ask. There's a related question here that somebody's asking about the practice of Rup Dhyan. Does making a form mean that you have to actually see the image of Krishna when you close your eyes? The person asking says, I open my eyes and I look at a picture of Radha, Krishna and Guruji. Is that okay to do also? Yes, Kripalu Maharaj, when he explains Rup Dhyan, he says that in the beginning, a person may benefit from having the help of a beautiful picture of Radha Krishna in front of them. Ultimately, we want to be able to close our eyes and form that image of Radha Krishna. But if you're trying to do that and it's just not happening, then open your eyes and look at the picture. Take the help of that picture. Look at some detail in the picture and then close your eyes and try to imagine that detail. Ultimately, it's the exercise of picturing Radha Krishna that creates the connection. Of course, our faith is also involved. We have to have faith that Krishna is also in the image I'm creating. He's omnipresent and he's gracious. He's kind enough to say, I know you can't correctly imagine my form until you get a divine mind, then you can just meet me face to face. But until then, I know you can't correctly think of what I actually look like. So it's okay. Whatever you imagine, I accept that form and I reside in that form. Our faith in Krishna's being in this form that we're imagining and our faith in his kindness and graciousness is also a part of the process. But the other part is just the imagining part. The mind is a tool. Our imagination in this case is not a pure material imagination. We're using this exercise of imagining Krishna's form to actually feel his presence, which is a fact. Factually, he is present here. By imagining his presence, we're just joining our mind with the fact. That's how we get the benefit. So whether you need to look at a picture first and use that to help you form the image of Radha Krishna, or you can just do it by closing your eyes without the help of a picture, it's fine. Either way is fine. You could even do it with open eyes. You could see a spot in front of you and see Krishna standing there with open eyes. That also counts as Rup Dhyan. It's more highly recommended to do it with closed eyes, because with open eyes there might be people moving around, you might get distracted, but whatever works for you, do it. Either one is fine. Any questions about that, about the Rup Dhyan? Yes, here in the front, Bhimbhaiya.
Sort of on that note, I feel like a lot of my generation in general and before is always afraid of ego and like judgment around certain things. Is there any tools you have around breaking that fear of judgment and fear of the things that create barriers in our head that make sense around certain things?
Well, in terms of Rup Dhyan, Krishna has said there's no judgment on his part. There's no right and wrong way to imagine his form. It doesn't even have to be beautiful. Maybe someone doesn't have an artistic imagination. Whatever form you're imagining, you just have to feel this is your divine companion, Krishna, who's with you. That's it. You make the connection to him, he accepts whatever form. So from his side, there's total acceptance, no judgment.
Okay.
Okay, let us move on to the next question for today. Does our mind ever catch glimpses of memories from past lives? For example, if we see someone we think we know somehow but have never really met before, well, there could be any number of things at work here. Yes, it's possible mostly for young children who rarely there's a child who has some memories from their past lifetime. Those memories are nearer the surface of the conscious mind. Early in the next life, they recede further, deeper into the subconscious as the person gets older. So it is possible that someone could know, oh, I lived over there, or this was my name, these were the people that I was with. It's rare, but it's possible. It's more likely that either a person has a certain type of sanskar. A sanskar means a very subtle imprint on our mind that is from our experiences and our thinking in our last lifetimes. And that carries over into this life and predisposes us to be inclined to like a certain thing or dislike another thing or be attracted to a certain thing or a certain type of person. So because of a sanskar, we may feel a certain recognition with a person, or a kind of like our energies match with them. That could be because of some past life sanskar, not necessarily that we were with that person in our last life, but just our something about them just fits with our particular inclination at that time. And somewhat along these lines, Jagadguru Shree Kripalu Ji Maharaj explains that in a person's mind, there's a constant fluctuation of the mayic gunas, sattva, raj, tam. Sattva, the pious quality, raj, the active but in-between quality, and then tam, the impious quality. These three natural qualities of Maya, since the mind is made of Maya, they're always fluctuating in the mind. Then we also tend to develop one quality more than others based on our thinking and our practices and our living in this life. So if a person is in a more sattvic, if the sattvic guna in their mind is more activated, then they're going to feel that they match more with another person who's also in that more sattvic state of consciousness, as opposed to a tamas person or a rajas person. But then if their mood changes, and then now they're in a more rajas state of mind, then they're going to match more with a more rajas type person who's also in that similar state of mind. So this is why sometimes we just naturally feel that we fit with a certain person or we fit with another person. It has to do with the fluctuations of these three guna in our mind. Anyone have any follow-up questions about that? Yes. Radhe Radhe. I think the mic is off, Meembhai.
Can you go over the sattvic gunas? Just remind us.
Sattvic qualities would be patience, energy, being energetic, but not in an ambitious way, like a blind ambitious type of way, but just active to do something good. Forgiveness, generosity, fearlessness, cleanliness, these are all sattvic qualities. Courageousness, Krishna mentions a whole list of these in the Gita. And then rajas is more also active, but when the rajoguna is more prominent in the mind, a person is active in a very tense, stressful way, in a blindly ambitious way. So they're actively trying to accomplish something, but without a spiritual perspective, just with a purely materialistic perspective. And then the tamas quality tends to evoke feelings of either laziness or even more destructive things like hate or anger, that type of thing. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Does one get the benefit of donating after death if it is done through a will? Yes, dan, or giving donation, first of all, understand the benefit while we're alive. It's considered a sattvic action, but it depends upon the patra. Patra means to whom are we giving. So even if our intention is sattvic, but we give to a tamas cause or a tamas person, then the result of our donation is not purely sattvic. Our intention was good, but it's also mixed with tamas because our donation was used for a tamas thing. We give money to somebody and they buy drugs with it, for instance. We meant to help them, our intention was good, but we also get the result of their bad action since we enabled it. So, to whom are we giving? That's also important. And with what intention are we giving? That's, of course, equally important. And then there's another possibility that we support the mission of a God-realized saint. That's, you can say that's super sattvic. That comes in the category of bhakti. That has a direct effect of purifying the heart immediately. Whereas sattvic dan, sattvic charity, gives us more well-being in our next life. It's almost like when we give sattvic charity, we're depositing that in our spiritual bank account. Even though in this life, in a material sense, that money is gone from our hand and we can't spend it again in this life, we've given it to some sattvic cause. But according to the law of karma, that's like it's been deposited in our spiritual bank account, and it's even going to collect interest. And in the next life, we get to withdraw that. We get that money back again. In other words, whatever we've donated, we get automatically in our next life with interest. That's how wealth works. So there is benefit both in this life, that we feel a sense of peace if we do sattvic charity, and in our next life we get that wealth and we get that family welfare due to the charity that we gave in this life. Or if we give to a divine patra, then we get the effect of immediate heart purification and the intensification of feelings of bhakti for God. So in these two cases, we're getting benefited from doing charity. What about after someone has passed away? In fact, the benefit is the same. So if somebody has worked and earned that money while they're alive, then that's technically their energy that they've put into that. And even though they've passed on, now that energy is still there in their bank account. So what do they choose to do with it? They could choose to give it to their kids, but what if their kids use it for something rajas or tamas? Then again, they have to bear the outcome of that. They could donate it to some sattvic cause, they could donate it to some divine cause. So even though they've passed on, they're still going to, according to this still counts as their karma now, because that was an action they did before they left. They decided this is how this money is going to be used. They put it in their will, for instance. So yes, if somebody donates to a sattvic or divine cause in their will, then even though they've gone on to the next life, that action counts and it's going to benefit them in their next life. Any questions about that? Okay, the next question has to do with Guru. Can one get God realized by doing Guru Bhakti alone? The Ved says, Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau tasyaite kathita hyartha prakashante mahatmanah. Shvetashvatara Upanishad. This is a very interesting point that's made here. Whatever is our feeling of devotion and dedication to God, we should have the same feelings of bhakti for Guru. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha gurau. Yatha means whatever, tatha, the exact same. Whatever devotion we have for God, we should have the same devotion for Guru. Of course, the Guru has to be God realized. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtham. Mundaka Upanishad says that a true Guru is not only well-versed or completely knowledgeable in all of the scriptural matters, but is Brahmanisht, God realized. Brahmanisht means having seen God, having attained God. Such a divine Guru who is beyond Maya, who is one with God, is qualified to be called an actual Guru. So if someone does devotion to such a Guru, yes, they can attain God. And the question was, by doing Guru Bhakti only, let's say someone has a divine Guru and they do Rup Dhyan of that Guru. Maybe that's easier for them, maybe that's more natural for them. Even though they're attracted to Radha Krishna and they love Radha Krishna, but in their meditation they do Rup Dhyan of their Guru and not of Radha Krishna. Could they still attain God? The answer is yes. Naam Rup Leela Guna Dham Jan. All of these six are one. God's name, God's forms, God's leelas, meaning his divine acts, his divine plays or pastimes, his divine gunas, meaning his personality, what are the qualities of his behavior, what are his characteristics, we call that guna. Dham, his divine abodes are also one with him, and his divine saints. These 6 things are all one. So if you attach your mind anywhere in his names, forms, leelas, qualities, abodes, or divine saints, you will attain God. Therefore, even if someone does Rup Dhyan on their Guru alone, that will qualify them to attain God. There's another question about Guru here, a very interesting question. If I was introduced to Krishna through another teacher and organization, should I just stay in that group? Is it disrespectful to switch? This is a very practical question and a very common concern people have. Let us consider the internal state of a true divine saint. There could be multiple saints on earth, true gurus on earth at any one time. They're all working together because they're all one with God. They're all following God's instructions to spread devotion in this world amongst the souls and help souls reach God. Therefore, no true saint feels any jealousy or sadness if a soul changes gurus. I was following this guru and I benefited, but now I'm attracted to the teachings of this guru and I want to follow that guru. The first guru will be happy if they're a true saint. So we shouldn't have any hesitation that we're insulting our first guru or our first guru is going to be upset. If they're a true guru, there's no chance of that. You're not leaving God for the world. You're simply maybe going from middle school to high school or high school to university. Maybe the first guru took you to a certain point and now this next guru is going to take you to a higher goal. Whatever it may be, if it's not a true guru, then of course they have material emotions just like you and I do, and they'll be jealous, they'll be hurt. Oh, this person was not loyal to me, they left me for someone else, but that's their problem, not yours. And if they're not a divine guru, then it doesn't matter. We're not seeking to cause them suffering, but we don't have to worry that something bad is going to happen to us or God is going to be upset with us that we changed gurus. No, if they're not a true guru, they may be upset, but you don't have to worry about that. Now you're following a true guru. Or if they are a true guru, even that is fine. There are many examples of divine saints who, before they were God, realized they were following one guru and then they changed to a second or even a third guru along the way and eventually became God realized. And all their gurus were true gurus. So it's fine. You should feel completely free that if you feel you can get more benefit by following a different saint, then follow that saint. It is not wise to try to follow multiple gurus at once. That is not advised. But changing from one to another is completely acceptable. It's totally fine. Before I see if any of you have any questions, there's a related question here. Somebody's asking, since we have had infinite past lives, we might have had many God-realized saints as guru. This is true. Can we continue with gurus who benefit us more, since all guru and God's purpose is, I think he's trying to say guru and God are their purpose is to bring us to God. I believe this person is asking almost the same question. Is it okay to change gurus? The answer is yes. Or if he's asking, can we continue with the same one from life to life? That's also a possibility. Jagadguru Shree Kripalu Ji Maharaj has said that once you become attached to a certain guru, that guru is bound to keep helping you and guiding you and gracing you, not only for the rest of this life, but all the way up until God realization. So whether that guru has to send and make sure to arrange that you meet another true saint in your next life, or if that guru themselves has to come in another form to meet you and help you in your next life, that guru takes your total responsibility up until God realization. So that is as far as we'll go with the questions today. Does anybody have any follow-up questions based on this material? Sure, just use the mic so that the people watching online can hear your question.
Sorry, but how do we raise our sattvic guna? Is it just through sadhana? And
How do we improve the sattvic guna?
Like you gave those characteristics. I was like, I'm totally tamas. So how do I raise it? And
Oh, okay,
go up?
yeah. So it happens automatically. It's a symptom of heart purification when the sattvic qualities start to raise up and the rajas and tamas qualities subside. It's not that we have to think about, today what am I going to do to reduce this or increase that? What we should be thinking about is, today what can I do to increase my love for Krishna? What can I do to increase the attachment of my mind to Krishna? Because when that happens, my mind's going to purify, and when my mind purifies, sattvic qualities will increase, rajas and tamas qualities will decrease. So we just bypass all the worrying about those individual things. Just think about how to attach your mind more to Krishna.
There's so many personalities, especially like on YouTube now, and different gurus and things like that. Are there any signs that make it easier to recognize a true guru?
The most foolproof way of recognizing a guru is not something that you can actually see instantly. It's something that takes time. That's the most important thing to be aware of. And then there are one or two things that you could understand right off the bat. So the thing that takes time, which is the real thing we're looking for, is by following the saint's teachings and by accepting this saint as my guru, is my love for God growing, and is my attachment in the world reducing? Am I experiencing this internal transformation? Because that can only happen if we're receiving the grace of a true saint. So obviously that takes time. We have to understand the saint's teachings, implement them right? We have to be sincere about following the saint's teachings, and then see, am I getting the results as promised? The saint said, if I do this, I'll get these results. Am I getting this result? Then we can judge that, is this a true saint? That's the most foolproof way to do it, because no one can fool you about your own experience. What you are experiencing is your own experience, and you can judge whether that's correct or not. But initially, because we have to first of all decide whose teachings am I going to follow, who am I going to adopt as my guru. So initially, we can look at something like, what is the level of clarity about the goal? For me personally, I followed multiple spiritual teachers until I came to Jagadguru Shree Kripalu Ji Maharaj. And looking back on it now, I see that, in fact, none of them addressed the issue, let alone pinpointing exactly what the goal is. It was all quite vague, that do this practice and you'll get this, you'll gain this skill, this psychic experience, but there was no clarification about why am I here, where did I come from, what is my ultimate goal. That was not explained to me clearly until I heard the teachings of Kripalu Ji Maharaj. So for me, that was an aha moment or an eye-opener where I just saw, oh, this is totally different. He's answering the questions that other people don't even have the courage to consider answering, and he's just clearing it up like that. So that, for me, that was an initial way where I just felt that this is for real. What kind of clarity is this person providing on what is the actual goal? So with Shree Maharaji, everything is so logical and very clear. This is the goal. These are the things to avoid. This is where you come from. This is why you're having these experiences. So everything was very clear. I would say in a more intangible way, when you hear a saint's words, sometimes the doubts and confusions that you carry around inside of yourself just get unlocked. You're listening to the saint's lecture and all of a sudden you just feel like, oh, now I understand. And that wasn't happening with listening to others. So it's like the saint's words have a divine power to penetrate the heart and dissolve these knots of spiritual confusion. Of course, it depends upon our openness, but that can also be an initial realization that this is something different. This is something reaching me on a much deeper level. And then once you start practicing what the saint is teaching, you'll start to feel more affinity for Radha Krishna. That's also something that can't happen without the grace of a saint. And your attachment in the world also starts reducing, which is also impossible without the grace of a saint. So initially, there's a couple of things we can recognize, and then gradually, over the longer term, as we practice, we start to be able to recognize that internal transformation of increasing affinity for God and reducing attachment in the world. Anything else to ask? Okay, we have a few minutes left. Let us do a little bit of kirtan and rup dhyan. We can take the help of the shrine, like I was explaining. Kripalu Ji Maharaj tells us if we have trouble imagining the form of Radha Krishna, put a beautiful picture or murti in front of you. So if you'd like to come where you can have darshan of Radha Krishna, look at them when we're doing the chanting, and then try to close your eyes and in your imagination bring Radha Krishna out of the shrine. They come out and meet you, or maybe you can go into the shrine like you're entering the divine world to meet Radha Krishna. Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
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 Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Oh, Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Oh, Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Oh, Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
बोलो राधा कृष्ण भगवान की।
राधे राधे। एक बार और ट्राई करते हैं। राधे राधे।
राधे राधे।
ये हुआ ना बात। वेलकम टू रासेश्वरी राधा रानी टेम्पल। एनीबडी